Hey guys, Andrew Shrout. I'm here in the sideboard with Andrew Boswell. How's it going, man?
Good. Nice to see you again, friend.
Yeah. You showed up with green-white aggro.
Yep.
Which is a deck near and dear to my heart, and near and dear to yours as well. I know you played
Very
it for a
much.
while. You
Yep.
actually won the Pennsylvania State Championship
Yep,
for this deck,
last weekend. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so you're on a little bit of a roll with this deck.
If you say so, sure.
Well, you know, you won last weekend with
Yeah,
it. That,
absolutely,
That
yep.
seems like you're starting a roll.
I'm
Anyway.
not arguing.
All right. Tell me a little about why you like this deck so much and why you chose to play it last weekend and this weekend.
Sure. So I originally started playing green-white aggro at Pro Tour Dublin. Really liked the deck. I thought, all the cards were really great. The mana was a little shaky though, and I really wanted like one more good reactive spell.
Sure.
So I played the deck through Theros. I dropped it off for Journey into Nyx, and then, or Born of the Gods, and brought it back up again with Journey into Nyx because Mana Confluence and Banishing Light are just great.
Yeah. Okay. So now that you can cast your spells.
Yeah. It feels good to cast my spells.
I know. I love casting spells.
Yeah.
All right. So your list is. There are a couple distinctive qualities to this list. It's green-white. Green-white's a thing that people have known about for a while, but there are a couple of tweaks to your list that I'm actually really interested in. I want to start with Lockstone Smiter. Now, it's weird to say that Lockstone Smiter is like a unique aspect, but it's a card that not everyone plays, even any of, and especially not everyone plays 4 of, but you're going the full 4.
Yeah, so Lockstone Smiter, I mean, a lot of times it's just a 4/4 textless body that gets trumped by Plukranos. It gets, it's just not super great. But with Mana Confluence, you can take a direction of just being very consistent. The way my deck's built, it just almost always goes 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And Lockstone Smiter is perfect for that game plan.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, you're trying to curve out a little more than most builds. Yeah, you have 2 additional 1-drops.
Yep.
You have the 4 Experiment 1 for Soldier of the Pantheon. That's kind of standard. Then you have 2 Dryad Militant as well.
Yeah.
So a little bit of extra turn 1 aggression, and then just trying to maintain the curve from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one thing you're missing, and this
I know it breaks your heart.
I don't know what's going on here, man. You're going to have to fill me in.
Yeah.
You are not playing any Advent of the Worms in your main deck.
Right, yeah. So Advent of the Worm is a great card, but we're playing 23 lands, and before, our mana was a little clunky, so where other people's games would always drag out to 4 lands. But when you're just playing, at least my version, a lot of times I just hit 3 lands and kill them. I go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, a Johnny, maybe a Banishing Light, and being stuck on 3 lands is great. And for a 23 land deck, that's okay. And then when I'm facing a lot of removal, I bring the Advents in. So I go, I really want to curve into a 4th creature rather than a Johnny or Banishing Light.
I gotcha.
And when they have a lot of removal like Mono Black or Verdict decks, the games always drag out long enough where you hit your 4th land.
Sure. All right. So you basically just don't want to ever you don't want the game to progress to the point where you would need a 4-drop period?
Yeah, I don't want the game to be any longer than it needs to be.
Okay, you would like to be ending the game the turn that you would pass with Advent up,
exactly,
I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, and to that effect, you have 3 a Johnny Collar of the Pride as well.
Yeah, Johnny is insane. He's like a huge burn spell that leaves a mediocre Planeswalker behind.
Okay, all right, so you tend to play him and immediately jump and double strike something?
Yeah, and I mean, he just saves you from a lot of positions you couldn't otherwise be saved from. Like, he kills Elspeth, he gets around Blood Barons. I've had absurd games where people were chump blocking with their Rurik Thars.
Okay.
A Johnny has huge high end, and you're always going to get some damage, and he's going to leave behind a Planeswalker, and they have to actively kill it, or something.
Okay. And then this is a new addition that you mentioned earlier. Talk to me a little about Banishing Light. How big a deal is Banishing Light for this archetype?
So Banishing Light's a pretty big deal. I really don't want to interact with my opponent more than I have to.
Sure.
But I have to interact with them at least a little bit.
Right.
And before, like against Mono Black, the hands that I would lose to would involve a Stream of Removal and a Desecration Demon.
Sure.
And I only had 4 Selesnya Charm, but now I get to play 4 Selesnya Charm, 2 Banishing Light, so I have like 6 things to draw for their 4 copies of it. Okay. And I can even bring in another Banishing Light from the sideboard, so it really helps out. Okay.
It's just the most flexible answer possible.
Yep.
Because you never know what roadblock they're going to throw at you.
Exactly. You just want kill target thing every once in a while.
Sure. Okay. Tell me a little about your matchups. Like, what deck do you most want to play against when you're playing this deck?
So decks that I most want to play against are at opposite ends of the spectrums. The really, really aggressive decks, or the really, really controlling decks.
Okay.
Against the aggro decks, my creatures are just better. I have a lot of life gain. Like I just clog up the board and win.
Sure.
And against really, really slow decks, I just come out so fast. A lot of my creatures are resistant to verdict.
Okay.
You know, and in the middle, things get a little trickier. Against like the black removal decks, my curve starts on 1.
Right.
So I'm on the play, the matchup is pretty good, but when I'm on the draw, if I don't have a Voice of Resurgence, it's like really close to 50-50 or worse than that for me.
Okay.
And then against the coarser decks, like the other fat green creature decks, those can be a little tricky, particularly when there's Sylvan Caryatid, Courser, and no other green creatures. Because if they have Blue Chronoses and other green creatures, I can bring in Hunt the Hunter.
Sure. But
if they don't have those, I can't bring them in, and the Courser can be like kind of a big roadblock.
Okay. So people going slightly bigger than you, I suppose, are the problem?
Exactly what you would think. Just decks slightly bigger than mine are hard.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I believe we just finished round 6, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you are sitting at 5-1.
Yeah.
So over the hump, we just have a couple more rounds to close out.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep.
I'll be rooting for you.
Thanks a lot, dude.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down with me.
Yep, see ya.
Stick around. We've got plenty more coverage coming of the Standard Open here in New Jersey.